Hey everyone, this is Movieman, another Added Theater reaction, this time for Deadpool and Wolverine, directed by Shawn Levy. Just the way Deadpool / Wade operates within this world, I think you'll really enjoy that. Like, it takes it, it kind of depends. Because in some ways, you might argue they could go even further, but to me, some of the stuff that was being said and discussed still took it even further in some ways. So, of course, Hugh Jackman, the one and only Wolverine, they're gonna cart this man out, as was said in the film, until he's like 90. So, I'm not gonna lie, it's much like The Flash, where it's just like, I'm just here for Michael Keaton. In this case, that's not all I was here for, but was it a big draw? Absolutely. And I think the creators knew what they were doing, because it's like, look, you have Wolverine / Logan in the mix, it is over. It is over. So it really was fun. And I understand people subjectively, have had fun with some of the films this summer movie season, but for me, it has been a womp. I have not been feeling it. So I just felt like this was like, okay. I felt like I really was having fun and having a good time. And I think that, if nothing else, I was very grateful for that. Story-wise, what's going on? Clearly this is an excuse just to have the cameos and all of that, but you gotta have something underneath that. It has to be some substance. And I know they tried to do a little something, but to me it was very thin and it was just very flat. The abundance of meta jokes, I think it's like dialed up to like 20. I don't even have time to fully laugh or enjoy this moment because y'all are just hurling them one by one. So I would say just overall those are my cons, and I'll have more to say because, as you can tell, if the aspect ratio didn't give it away, it's time to give my out of theater reaction and now get into my thoughts with spoiler talk. So you guys can stay tuned for more as I share my spoiler thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. Hey everybody, rocka body. Hey, yes, we are officially here in the studio. Does anything look different? Well, of course, I had to change my shirt because I just felt like a Gambit shirt would be so fitting. I don't know why. I just had this weird feeling and I was just like, Gambit, why not represent Gambit? I figured if there's a film that requires in-depth spoiler discussion, it's this one. There's a lot going on and a lot to spoil. So I figured, hey, it's time to switch it up. I'm trying to branch out and take things in a different direction with some of these reviews. So I'm like, spoiler talk is the way. And of course, this is a very fitting film to do it with. So getting into more specifics for my pros, I have to say that the fighting sequences were giving me so many things. It was definitely giving me what I needed. And let me tell you right now, that opening scene, I was not prepared. I was not ready, but I was living. Listen, I could have just taken that opening scene and been done. I was just like, if this is what we're about to get into, I am ready. No matter what reservations I might have had, that opening scene let me know, oh, it's a wrap. The idea of Deadpool, literally and figuratively, desecrating Logan's body, and by extension, the Logan film, by using his adamantium skeleton / corpse to battle the TVA, all set to bye, in sync. I was through. I mean, the moves and all. I thought that was great. I also really loved the fighting sequence between Deadpool and Wolverine, Wade and Logan in the car. The reason I loved that, because of course, with this R rating, we are once again getting all these brutal, gory, fight sequences and kills. Blades going in and out of bodies, blood splashing, like flying, splattering, spattering, like on and on. And what I loved about the car scene is that we're not used to necessarily seeing someone battling another person in the confines of a car, especially that particular car that is referenced. So, and of course they're destroying the car as they're doing it. So I was just like, man, that I just thought that was hilariously entertaining and so bloody and so in your face, but again, somewhat different just because like getting knocked around this tight space, it just was very disorienting, very claustrophobic, but again, so enjoyable. Also, with Wade using Cable's time traveling device, the fact that he's able to encounter all of these Wolverine variants, which I also have to say I did not see that coming, and particularly with the comic accurate mini extremely short version of Wolverine, I was through. I was like, oh, we're doing this. We're really doing this. Because it's so funny, but believe it or not, as much as people love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, he has occasionally caught flack from the people who feel like he should be short and stocky. And it's like, look, I get it, but would you rather have someone who had the look but wasn't nearly as effective in the role as Hugh Jackman? I don't think so. So we get what we get, and I like that with that little gag specifically, that variant, they are poking fun at that. It's like, is this what you wanted? Is it really? So, even though this is a spoiler discussion, I am still going to save the bulk of the cameo discussion for a separate video because there were so many to discuss, and I just want to give my general feelings here and just touch on maybe a few, and I'm going to save the really significant ones for that separate video because they were aplenty. But what I will say is that at the very least, seeing so many X-Men feature in this, which I suppose is fitting considering that we have Wolverine and Cassandra Nova, who is the twin sister of Professor X. I'm like, okay, it makes sense that we would get some actual X-Men / mutants in this. So it was really awesome seeing Juggernaut, Pyro, Toad, Lady Deathstrike, Callisto, Blob, Azazel, Psylocke, and Sabretooth. I have to say, when Wolverine officially donned the mask, it was a moment. I personally felt like it was coming. So when everyone kept saying like, oh, they're not going to do the mask. They're not going to do the mask. How could they not do the mask? I'm like, all right, like, can we save something for the film? Like, can we not trust that it's going to happen? I just felt like there's no way. And number one, I'm just like, if they did show it on set, would you guys not be mad about that? So it's just like, what is the problem here? But anyway, the point is, I saw it and I was like, wow. And it's crazy because I don't know if some of you realize this, but initially that mask, maybe not on, but that actual mask was going to be shown and basically hinted at as far as maybe something in the future in the film The Wolverine from 2013. There is a deleted scene at the end of the film. It's a scene where Yukio gives him this box and he opens it, and what does he see then? The iconic and comic accurate suit. So even though I was hoping and genuinely believing we were going to see it, actually seeing it happen, the moment of was like, yes. We have won. We have won. We have won. Ooh, a moment. All right, now jumping over to the cons. As much as I enjoyed all of that, I do think it was very apparent to me that the story, the plot, it was like wafer thin. And I do get that ultimately that's not the focus, but I feel like we can still have all of these things going on and still provide something of substance where the story is concerned. And for me, I just found that it didn't hold up. The whole thing where Wade is trying to matter, joining the Avengers and all that, I got it, but it was just like, what was his arc really? And the whole thing with Vanessa, it just was like, all right. Now, ultimately, the bigger scenario that comes into place on a much more significant level is the eradication of his timeline. But I just felt like Deadpool as a character, what did he really have going on? And I also felt the same way about Wolverine. I just was not here for the reveal that they had. To me, it didn't make any sense. And to me, it was just some BS to create some kind of cheap narrative for the character. He basically admits that this one day he decides to go off drinking and not stick around at the X Mansion. And then somehow all these humans come and attack the X Mansion and presumably kill all the X-Men. And because he wasn't there, he blames himself for not preventing their deaths. And I was just like, so wait a minute. You mean to tell me an entire mansion full of mutants, not just any mutants, like the mutants, the X-Men, Omega level mutants at that, including Storm. How did humans kill all of them? I was just like, oh no. No. I'm sorry. You're going to have to find somebody else. I'm just like, I would have accepted it if they had a scenario where Wolverine, because we know about his whole berserker mode, that animalistic rage, I could even understand if there was some kind of scenario that triggered that, and maybe they were in a battle, or maybe something happened and it just triggered, very similar to the first X-Men back in 2000, where he is having these horrible dreams and then he ends up effectively killing Rogue. She just manages to resolve that by having the healing factor. But, you know, something like that, it reminds you that despite Logan's control over his power, it can manifest itself in a lot of ways. And so I'm just saying, like, there are so many different ways, and this is a variant. So it could be possible that whatever he resolved in that one timeline is not resolved here. So, or you can even come up with something else. There are a lot of ideas, but this whole idea that, oh no, the humans came hunting and they destroyed them and they took them down, I could have almost accepted that, but I'm like, how? Did they bring tanks and army? That really irritated me, because I'm just like, no, absolutely not. It doesn't work. I also was on the fence about Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova. I think the character, for obvious reasons, is intriguing. I think Emma Corrin's performance, objectively speaking, is really solid. But I feel like for all that I know about Cassandra Nova, and I'm not saying it's everything, I just feel like they don't do much to really distinguish her as a villain. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the finger stuff, very creepy, very disorienting, very disturbing, right? But it's like they didn't do anything to really show the serious implications or powers or mindset of that character. And it was such a wasted opportunity. I understand this film is comedic, but I think that could have gone so much further. And we're talking about the twin sister of Professor X. So the last thing that we should be getting from a character like that is anything one note, shallow, superficial. There was so much more that could have been explored with that character. And we just didn't. And I wasn't feeling it. Lastly, let me say that although I enjoy the humor and I think a lot of it lands and it is funny and quirky and enjoyable, a lot of it is not as effective as it wants to be. I think part of the issue is that the jokes are so rapid fire and they just keep coming and they keep coming and they keep coming that, number one, it's hard to just kind of keep up and allow each joke to land before another 5 comes. So it's like I can't even fully settle into the hilarity of this 1 or 2, 3 even jokes. I can't settle into those jokes before we've already jumped to something else. I also think that because we become accustomed to the beats and the topics that the humor is tackling, it almost becomes predictable in a way. It's not, because you can't necessarily predict everything that's coming out of Deadpool's mouth, especially. But after a certain point, it's like, okay, we're going to get a sexual joke as it relates to body parts, physical intimacy, something about Wolverine's body, something about the MCU, something about the multiverse, something about Fox. And so after a while, it almost is like, okay. And I think because we don't get room to breathe from that at all, in the dramatic sense, except for a moment here and there, it becomes a little awkward to watch. Like, I found there were moments where I wanted to laugh, but I was chuckling because it was just like, all right, there's been so much of this that I'm a little tired, but also there's no relief. There's no time to kind of step back and then recharge and then prepare for the next show. And I just think it really did take away the impact of some of those moments comedically for me. All right, so I'm going to give Deadpool and Wolverine a B-. Now, I will also say that B- is more so for the fun and the general enjoyment. But I just wish this could have found a way to balance all of that chaos with a story and just with some measure of depth. It just kind of felt a lot sloppier than I thought it was going to. But one thing I will say is that I did appreciate this as a surprisingly poignant send-off to the world of 20th Century Fox and Marvel and that collaboration, the early 2000s. And say what you want, but the impact of those films definitely paved the way for what we see now. So you definitely can't negate that as far as the journey from Marvel to what it was into the MCU and everything it is now. Struggles and all, right? But that foundation is important. And I loved seeing that in the end credits and just understanding what an era that was. I do think, if nothing else, this film definitely went out of its way to highlight that. And I think that was something really, really awesome to see. So, once again, this is D, Movie Man, signing off. And I'll see you at the movies.